friends, it's time to turn the key. Release your stress and pain along with me, yeah. It's not about perfection, it's about the connection. Now put it on your canvas and let it be.
Hey everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, and we are back today for another one of our 12 live days where we're going live every day, if the internet lets us, on YouTube and teaching a different kind of winter holiday theme painting. So every year I kind of like to do these holiday party girls because I just always get super inspired by that, and I love fashion illustration and that whole design aesthetic. And so I put this together. She's named Flame. She's going to be super fun. There is a traceable. If you check the description below, besides materials, and understand on this project, the materials are very flexible. This is such a use what you have painting project. You'll see everything down there. There's a really cool, fun, optional material. I'm going to show you with the brush, but I'm going to also show you a trick with a sponge that makes this so easy to do. Yes, household sponge works. Yes, your craft sponge works. Yes, just all the sponges work. And we're going to have a lot of fun. But of course, I'm going to show you for brush. On the mic today is my husband, John.
Hi, guys.
So he's going to be reading your chat, switching cameras, making sure you can see how I'm mixing and how I'm accomplishing my techniques. And that if you have a question, he's going to pass those on to me. So you'll be hearing him throughout the broadcast. And I think this is going to be just a ton of fun today.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm super, super excited for this, and I'm excited that the internet worked. I'm going to sip my coffee in celebration. Celebration Art Day.
I celebrate that the intertubes are happy, and you know we're still uploading yesterday's video, but it'll be up a little later this afternoon. The intertubes have been challenging. But we're working it out. The stream is nice and stable, so we're doing okay.
It's a great lesson, and you're just going to get a twofer today.
Yeah.
So that's okay, because it's kind of like a makeup quiz. But not, because I don't really quiz anybody on art.
Pop quiz. There's no quiz.
Anyways, so there she is, and I love her hair. I'm going to show you all this. I'm going to demo her in, drawing her in. But again, you have the traceable. Let's look at our materials just real quick that we're starting out with. Okay. So I have here an 11 by 14 canvas board, and I've been using these just because they're a lot easier for me to store. You can use stretch canvas, you could use canvas paper, you can use canvas board. It's really up to your preference. They're all equally valid art materials. Now, of course, I have wishes on here, and the first one is our very own Spooty Lady wishes for well-being and things to be okay. They've had some stuff happen in her family, and she's just sending some light and love all around her family. Then we also are wanting to send some light and love and well-being to Rebecca's husband, who's going through a lot. Nikita needs some positive studying energy. You just want the universe to download those exam questions right into Nikita's brain. And then Kenzie, who's also in college, would just like to have her living situation during college be just a little more optimal. It's not her favorite right now, and she'd like it to improve. So those are our wishes in our canvas. Over here, we have some paint for heavy body. I have burnt umber, titanium white, and Mars black to start. I also have 3 other colors I'm going to be using today. I've got some yellow ochre. I've got some cad red. I've got some phthalo blue. Listen, you can use naphthol. You could use really any reds you have at all. Or another party dress color. Don't feel limited by what's happening. There you go. You were catching me, so I'm back. Don't feel limited by what I'm using on these colors. This is very perfect to make this your own and customize this. Let's start painting it in. Are we ready to learn the techniques?
Oh, yeah.
So the first thing, just in case you're doing a brush, I'm going to show you the brush. This is a number 10 bright. It's a Cambridge, so it's a mix of synthetic and bristle filaments. And I'm choosing this because it's a scruffy brush, and for this type of technique, a little more texture in the brush can be helpful. And how I'm going to load is I'm going to pull some white paint in. I go stroke, 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 flip, stroke, stroke, stroke. That's how I pack and load my brush full paint. I'm going to come over here and get a little black on a corner. You can see I'm getting a little black. And then I'm going to come over here and get a little brown on a corner. And then how I will paint this painting is paint these streaks, not over mixing, right? In any way, by going over my brush strokes again and again. But that's how you get this streaky background. You see that coming in?
Yeah.
Get a little more dark color on there so it's a blusterier kind of wintry day. See, so that's how we get those kind of streaky, rainy backgrounds in. And if I cover it too much, it takes all my rain away. See it doing it?
Oh, yeah.
I feel
It just
confident doing this because I'm about to show you the easy way to get this in. So see, if I worked this a lot and didn't allow the paint to be there, well, I would just not have these cool streaks that show my rain. But if I go like this, back over it, I can fix it. See me fixing it?
Yeah.
So it's fixable. I'll show that again. So if I've somehow gotten really enthusiastic or just relaxed, I'm just loading my dark colors on. And I'm just lightly brushing over what's underneath. So see, it's totally possible. Brush to get this in. That's what I usually demo. But I've been into something lately. And I'm kind of digging it. So I'm going to turn my canvas to the side because I always like to make my canvas optimal to my comfort and positioning. Really going to be talking about this a lot lately. Move your canvas, not your body, so you don't get injuries. Now I have here, this is in a craft sponge packet. I've used household sponges for this technique. I've used like every sponge in my house. Just grab a sponge that is going to be a studio sponge now. And you should have a studio sponge. And I'm going to come here. I'm going to show you the load. I'm going to get some white paint on here. You see the white paint? And then I'm going to get some black. See the black paint? And some brown. A little more brown. And I'm tapping it kind of into my sponge there. My sponge is damp. Don't try this with a dry sponge. You want your sponge not to be wet, not to be... If you wring it, if you squeeze it, it shouldn't drip water. It should just be damp to your touch. And you're going to come to your canvas and you're going to pull across. Oh, look at that. Horizontally. Yeah, it's like that. So I'm going to get some more of my white paint on here while you guys are in shock and awe. I'm going to grab a little more black. You can see me go tap, 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 tap. I don't go right in the middle of that, but I get some black pigment on here. And if I'm not sure of its placement, I'll just tap the sponge in and pick it up. Get a little more of this and tap, tap, tap. Look at that nice mixture of black and brown and white.
Now, I had a question for you here.
I have an answer.
Carolyn was asking, how do you do these streaks when they need to have two coats to get the coverage, but how do you do it without getting over blending?
Allow them to dry between, and then you won't be over blended. If you have thin paint and it's just not covering the canvas, your two solutions are do an underpainting of a solid color or do your effect twice, but allow it to dry between those coats.
Gotcha.
All right. Boom, boom, boom. In my white paint. Loading up with my black paint now. Ooh, it's super stormy now.
Yep.
Some brown paint. Right? And I'm coming across and kind of pressing in. And I'm coming across horizontally. And then if I ever miss the horizontal, I can kind of smooth that out. I'm going to flip the canvas to my comfort. To my comfort. And I press in with my sponge. And you can see why it would be important to not have it be.
I'm going to come over and adjust that. Hold on just a second right there.
What are we adjusting?
Adjust that right over your shoulder. Right here.
Okay. Since we're here? Okay. I'm going to get a little more brown on here since we're looking. I'm tapping a little more brown in. I'm tapping a little more black in. I'm tapping a little more white in.
A little bit zoomed in.
There we go. I'll let you get back over the canvas. And this just puts this in. So this is an alternative to the dry brushing because I know sometimes the dry brushing is a challenge. And also sponge painting is so much fun. So I'm just coming across here. Now, notice that my sponge is not covering as well. Now, many people would have you re-dip back in the water to get the effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I do is I take a mister. Any mister that you have will work. I have this Power Micro Mister. And I moisten my sponge. I make sure it shouldn't be like when I'm squeezing it shouldn't be all drippy. And I come to my paint because I know I'm good now. And go back to my painting. Look at that. Now the technique is working beautifully again. So like brushes, your sponge paintings are still, at the mercy of the technique that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
If you overwork it, you can see here what happens. It kind of smooths out, but it's still better with the sponge, even overworked. Let's get some white on here, maybe a little black. I'm going to come over the top very lightly. And look, I can dry brush with my sponge. Who knew? Really a lot you can do. It's super fun. I love doing this with the kitchen sponge. And yes, that backside green scrubby thing, that is a very interesting art tool. Just so you know. What an interesting art tool that is. And so readily available at the dollar store. All right, so I've got this loaded, and I definitely want some brown. You can kind of see that I'm just like letting it be on the sponge. And I'm just coming back again, lightly over the top. And look at this beautiful rain effect it makes.
Oh, yeah.
I love it, and it is super enjoyable to me to do the background this way because it's just so fantastic for a rainy day painting.
Oh. And it looks like we're getting a little buffering here. So we'll hold on just a second here and see what we can do. And let me see if I can.
You guys loving it?
Oh, I think so. I think it may be back. The stream may have just come back in there. Okay.
Come back, stream.
Now there was a question here on.
I have so many answers.
Did you get that wet when you started?
Yes.
The sponge was wet to start with?
Yes, damp.
Damp.
The sponge is damp, not wet.
Damp, no.
So I prep all my sponge painting. I take my sponges and I go to the kitchen and I soak them and I wring them out. And when I touch them, they're just damp, not wet, not sopping. I couldn't wring out more water, but they're not dry. And then to keep them there, I just use a mister. Or you could go back and re-prep them. It's just not fun to put your hand all in the paint water. Maybe it is. I don't want to actually limit you. I don't know what your fun is.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to give the rest of my rain texture. You can just see how just coming over the top of this lightly gives me the most incredible rain streaks.
Mm-hmm.
And I like doing the horizontal placement because I have an easier time making a level stroke horizontally than vertically. I tend to want to go to an angle. So see how I'm moving the canvas and not my body?
Yeah.
And when I'm all done, look what a beautiful rainy day. By the way, this is also a fantastic prep for wood and so many other fun things that we can do. When you're done with your sponge, your kitchen sponge, your craft sponge, your new busty, you're going to definitely make sure you either wash it out right away or put it in some water so that the paint doesn't dry on it.
No.
But I'm working on a hack to fix a paint-dried sponge.
There are a couple questions here. Let me make sure I push the right button.
I got to let this dry anyways.
Okay. So question number 1. Can we see your bracelet?
Oh, if you must.
Yes, if you must. So we thought you might ask about that. So we put links conveniently in the description below so you can go check that out yourself.
But full disclosure, this is very budget-friendly stuff.
Yes. This is we buy this stuff.
And you might want a hot glue gun when you receive it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just use this stuff for the show as purely decorative, fun stuff. But sometimes you guys like.
I
to
was
know
out
what we're
getting elf ears for my daughter, and I found this whole collection of incredibly budget-friendly jewelry.
Budget-friendly,
and it just requires a little repair when it arrives.
It's some DIY stuff. Okay,
there's some DIY stuff.
Yeah. So the other question, I know we're killing just a little bit of time because it's drying, but this was something that I asked you. Remember about this? Can you use sea sponges?
So we looked into that because we didn't want to start any sponge projects unless we were sure about the ecology of this. So John did some research.
Yep. And so you guys know, most sea sponges, at least all the ones that we could find that are available through most of your stores, are harvested by hand, and they're cut, and they cut the sea sponge so that they grow back. So the root system, effectively, like the root system and the base of the sponge grows back. So it's kind of like pruning something, like a plant in a garden. So that's the way that they equate it so that we're not actually killing any of these animals. We're just harvesting the top of them, and they don't feel it. They're not. It's like a plant.
And apparently it provides some really good economy and jobs around the world, and it's like a good job. Or something.
It's like it's not a bad job to be a sea sun sponge harvester. You're like, they do other things too apparently in that job line, but it's like all of this doesn't seem to be too bad.
Now keep in mind this is Google level research.
Yes. So
we didn't go intel. This is what we could Google on the subject. Before we spoke on it, we thought we'd just check.
Yeah, we just didn't want to recommend you guys to all run out and get a bunch of sea sponges and then find out that we're wiping out an entire, ecology of sea sponges.
I'm going to try this to make sure this is dry real quick.
All right. We love ourselves a SpongeBob, and we want all his friends under the sea to be happy. So anyway, thank you guys for coming and hanging out. We got over 300 people here, which is always fantastic when we get to celebrate being, painters together. And I guess that's what we're doing today. Is we're all artists. We're all painting here today, having a good time, kind of doing this, and that's what's kind of magical about this whole thing. Is you guys are all here, part of a group of other people who are here to create together, and that's just wonderful. So thank you guys for coming together with that intention. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to check out, there's links in the description below for our website and all the stuff you might need. But there's Cinnamon. She's back.
So I'm going, again, there is a traceable. I don't expect you to draw as a component of painting, though it is a very nice skill to pick up. And to that end, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I lay her in and how I draw her, just in case you're working on that part of your journey yourself. Okay, I'm so ready.
Okay.
So John talks about this a lot.
I do?
But yeah, about the gesture of the art. Because he and I got in this conversation once about gesture, and he became very fascinated about this underlying component. And what gesture means is the movement that the objects in your painting themselves have, as if they're dancing, if they're communicating. So if you just do a straight up and down, figure with the cross, for the shoulders, and it's very static and it's straight on, it's less dynamic than if you add some gesture. So how I do that is I kind of create the line that I'm wanting. See this little curve I'm making here in chalk? And this is talking about the movement of the figure that I'm putting in. And I also have another movement kind of in this range about her head. So I make another little kind of curve. You can see those bisecting there. Are those seeable?
Yeah.
On camera? Cool. So if I was doing a figure like this I would kind of lay in the motion and feeling that I'm wanting. I know I'm going to have some flow off. And so keeping that in mind, it makes it interesting for me to design that. Now, the other thing that I was doing is I'm giving her a looking at you space. So I'm going to erase the top of my line. And I'm going to say her head is, let me check, about 3 inches from top. So I need to keep her somewhat in this space. My fingers are 3 inches from the top. That just lets me know to not get much above the top of my little line here if I want her to be pretty much the same aspect ratio as the original one I designed. So the first shape I'm going to do is this little egg shape. You see our little egg shape looking at us?
Yeah.
All right, so that's fantastic. And I've got my little egg shape, and then she's got this lovely little neckline, and it's a very elongated neck. So it's a stylized neck. I'm going to bring this down to where I imagine her shoulders to be. Now, her shoulders will come across on a hanger like this. If you think about it, you think collarbone and all the bones underneath the object. And then I like to taper a line into the waist. And on this particular girl, I didn't do much of a bust line because I wanted the front line to be kind of smooth and elegant. I'm going to come across here and say, all right, there's the bodice top. And this is going to let me come back here and really flow some dress all around my canvas, as you can see. Now, how I do the arms is, the only thing you've got to remember about arms is when you're doing a figure, if you're doing it stylized or realistic, the elbow, if the arm bent down on a fulcrum, should be right around the waist. And if you check your own body, like if you take a minute and you check your own body and you see where your elbows hit, it's right around your waistline. You check where your fingertips hit, it's right about mid-thigh. So as long as you keep those ratios, you can do a lot with the figure and still have it look correct. So to that end, I put her arm out this direction, right? I'm going to be painting in her dress, so I don't need that line. So I put her arm out this direction, and I got it to where it would be about, if it went on a fulcrum, to her waist. And I put it forward, and I'm going to do a little hand. There's no point in me drawing it in because I've got to paint in her dress before I do her flesh. But it lets me know about where that object would be. And I'll be painting that in. And this shoulder, I want to tuck as if she's doing like the runway walk right here. And then have kind of a cool thing with the hair. Comes down and goes off. And the top of it blends in. And this is a really fun thing for me to do. Here, I'll move the blend up higher. I like this sort of wind-swept hair. Because then you can come underneath. And it's nice to take this line out now while you have the chance. And blend it up into the hair so you know where it's going to be. Because it's going to be going behind her neck. And so you can have a nice minute to really carry your line through and make sure that you've got great positioning. Once you have great positioning, you know where your objects are, whether you've traced her on or whether you have free-handed her on. You just take a minute, step back, and give it a look. And make sure you're happy with where things are and where she is. Because once you start painting her in, it's a little harder. You can always change your mind. It's just more work.
Yeah.
Sippy, sippy.
Well, I'll have our coffee
Putting
today.
out some more of my other colors. So this is what I grabbed. Any red that you like, any dress color that you like. If you have somebody special in your life that's going to a special party or something, you know, and they have a special dress and you want to help them remember that experience, you know. I know I've got some blue here. I'm going to put this over by my black because I love to put blue into the black paint for hair.
Yeah. Now,
Yellow ochre for some skin tone. So you were asking a question?
oh, you know, I had a question, then I started reading chat, and it went right out of my head.
It went right out of your head.
It went right out of my head. And actually, I think I'll scroll back up here because it was a question from earlier. Oh, yeah. That thing you were sharpened. You had a sharpened drawing stick there.
Oh.
How did you make that sharpened drawing stick?
This is kids chalk, the kind you use on chalkboards. And whoops, I'm making a big mess. I have this sharpener that has several holes. I've got one for colored pencils. I've got one for small pencils. And they have one for my bigger pencils, and I can just stick my chalk in here. And sharpen it. And then I have this very easy to remove and inexpensive drawing tool.
Now, keep in mind, if you have children, as soon as they know this, they run off with all the sharpened bits of chalk.
Yeah, they really like it.
So, there you go.
Now you know. Now you know what can happen to you. So I'm going to take, this is a number 4 bright. So it's about, if you're looking for the width of the brush, it is that a 1/4 inch right there. It's a centimeter. So if you're anywhere where it's centimeters, it's 1 centimeter, and here it's about, I think, 1/4. So that's some size relationships for you. And I'm going to take a little of my black, or you can do blue, depending on how your paint is mixing. And I'm going to darken my dress color. So I'm taking my red and I'm putting a little of this dark color into it, because by putting this underneath, I can create a lot of dimensionality before I ever paint the top color. So I think it's important to pay attention to your brush stroke. And I'll show you how to clean up the chalk when we're done. But the first thing is just make sure that you're stroking across the direction of the shape of the chest. So like if you're trying to imply this sort of nice barrel shape, sometimes your brush stroke direction besides your value can help. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. You know, you can use the edges to fill in, and then I just come back and enforce that directionality. Now, I know I'm going to go right over my arm, but I've put it, and I know really the important part is this, and then I can work the hand out as I paint the dress in. I'm not that worried about it. You can even, if you want, darken this even a bit. See that extra devalue? Little touches make a difference.
Man, a little
What?
buffering, a little happening.
Buffering again?
A little buffering. You have a little sippy.
All right.
You have a little sippy while it's buffering. It's looking at me and it's going, "Ugh."
Is it going to be all pixelated after?
Just this little bit. But see, now, bang, see, it's fixed.
Okay.
It's back. So that little bit will be pixelated, but we'll go back as you get now.
All right.
It was just a little tiny bit there.
So we're going to take this down. I've got my brush. If you're having trouble being light with your strokes, you can always back up your brush and get to the back of it. So if you want to be tight and controlled, you move forward your brush. If you need to be loose and open, you can move back your brush. And those are a couple strategies to help you loosen up your brush stroke.
Now,
If you're having trouble. And I'm going to just loosely brush and not too many of these strokes. Because if I do too many, if the dress gets too solid, it will lose its playful nature and become like a big mass on your canvas, which isn't probably what you're trying for.
yeah, I think
Just stroke this down.
I think that not everybody is experiencing the buffering issues.
Okay,
So
good.
it's likely that there some people might, but on the replay this will probably be okay.
It'll be all right.
Yeah, there's some. I won't go into the technical reasons for all of this, but it's just working its way out.
It's working its way out.
It's doing its best.
Come off the back here. And I like to bring this up and down and flow it out. Like it's caught a wind. I hope it's not a secret that I kind of love New York City.
Is it a secret?
I don't think so, but maybe it is. Maybe because nobody knows me and they don't know that. I don't know.
Well, see, it's really funny. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I was not a big New York fan for a long time.
Really?
Yeah, I was very San Francisco.
I can see that.
I've been in Camp San Francisco since video game time.
I get it. I do.
But I have to say, New York's won me over.
It's amazing.
It's a good town.
So she's very inspired by the women that go out at night there. This sort of just unbelievable carefree, I'm in the city doing my thing. Now I'm going to be very light through here because, again, I want to keep this open. See how I'm being very open?
Yeah.
My brush pressure is light. And I'm just creating some dimensionality that will be under the red. I'll rinse this off. Now, if this isn't dry, it's harder to do the next part. And to that end, because I don't know what your experience is, I'm going to dry this just to make sure that you stop and dry at home too.
Okay. Let's see here.
I was actually sort of drying, but sometimes that helps.
All right, no problem.
So I'm touching and I'm making sure it's not wet and I'm not picking up paint, which means it's ready to take the next layer. And I'm going to go right into my totally right out of the tube amazing red. I'm going to come here and I'm going to comb across. I'm tapping down on the edge of my brush.
Mm-hmm.
And see, I'm just being very, barely any strokes. And I'm very light across the top of the canvas.
Oh, yeah.
And this line is even a little uneven, isn't it?
Now, of your values, is this the mid-tone value?
Well, we'd have to really look at this in black and white to get a sense of it. But what I would say, believe it or not, this is one of my darker values.
Okay.
This would be very similar to doing a solid blue dress or a solid black dress.
Ah.
But it would definitely be much darker than yellow. I'm going to pull this down. And I have to be to get this effect, to be super expressive, I have to be really loose about this. And so one of the things that I do is I kind of treat my brush like a palette knife. And then I load, I pull, I pull, and you can kind of see this thick load on my brush. Thickness, or is it better over here? That's okay. So you can kind of hopefully see this as I finish this off.
Yep. Yep.
Now this, what I'm talking about here, will actually help you guys with all of your girl paintings to do them even better. It's just understanding that we're needing to be very expressive and loose. Oh, I did a nice flat stroke. See that there? That
Yeah.
was very energetic. Maybe I'll come here and make a little stroke up and a little stroke flying out. See, that gives the dress some energy. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create some energy in her little dress. It makes it feel like it has caught the wind. Back here. And is blowing out. This is a light fabric. And she might be cold, but she's not going to ruin the line with a coat. Just blowing those out. And I'm just thinking about the flow of my dress because I just want this to be like, I want to almost hear the fabric whistling out behind her. And catch a little smell of her perfume. And be like completely in awe of her like on point makeup.
Yeah.
All right. I think I'm going to have to stop or I'm going to overwork this.
Ah.
Now I'll let it dry a little bit on its own and I'm going to talk a bit about skin tones. Now, I think on these girls, there's two considerations that you as artists really should make. One is that I think painting should reflect you. I'm going to be doing kind of a warm Caucasian skin tone, but if this painting is for yourself, definitely check out my video on how to mix different skin tones and always make your paintings reflect your world so that there's a beautiful image of your life being reflected back at you. And unless you're giving this as a gift, and then you would want to do that for the person that you're giving it to. I just think that's a nice thing that you can do as an artist is reflect your world or reflect somebody else's world.
So
If
what
that makes sense. And I have a whole video on how to mix different skin tones.
these fashion girls that you like to do here?
Mhm.
What kind of, this is sort of a Sherpa thing you do. What
Yes.
would you consider the style to be?
This is illustration style art.
It's like it's like a fashion illustration.
It's like fashion illustration.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of advertising art.
Yeah.
So you have to cover a lot of that. I can also marker out furniture and rooms really well. A skill I did not enjoy learning. And no, I'm not covering it here. So I'm going to come over. I'm going to make a base skin tone. So on Caucasian people, the base skin tone is kind of a peach, right? It's a red and a yellow, lightened with white, and you can tone with browns and gray with blues, and that's how you get our basic values. And I have different basic skin tones. This one, I'm just going to use what I have on my palette, and I'm going to take my red over to my yellow. I definitely want this skin tone to be warmer, and these two colors are going to definitely give me that. As you can see right here, how really warm and sun-kissed this is. See this little peach we're making? This little orange. Now you can take the skin tone more to the yellow or more to the red pretty easily. You can gray it with a little blue. You have tons of options. See the different kind of little colors that we can just get here with what's on our palette. See right here, by adding brown, what I've done, I've made a darker skin tone. So just in those mixes, you can start getting a lot of options there. But again, made a video, so.
Thanks.
Covering that, I'm going to get a brush that's sort of small. I think I'll get my number 4 cat's tongue initially, and then I'm going to want a detail brush for the hand. So I'll probably pull out, I really like, for doing this type of work, I really enjoy my number 2 short-handled filbert, because it gives me a nice precision edge. So I'm going to start with these two and see how I do. I'm going to get my brush wet. I'm going to drag off the extra water. I'm going to pull out this middle range that I've made. I'm going to add some white to it. and see if I'm happy with the result. And I feel pretty good about this. And so I'm gonna, there we go, use this color right here. And you can see this is a nice little skin tone that we can use. So I'm gonna come here to her face. And I'm gonna just start painting this in, her whole face, with this base skin tone. Now, if you have really thin paint, you may have to do 2 coats.
Now, what was the base color you used on your dress there?
The underneath color was a touch of black into the red.
A touch of black into the red.
If you're doing a yellow dress, you might want to gray it with purple, not black.
Oh yeah, I like how it looks when you do those. Is it complementary?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Complementary colors are a lovely way to darken. So when I have that there, I'm going to come and I'm going to put in my neck a little more of my base color and mix it over into my white. You can see how this makes it easier when I mix up a bunch. Any one of those 3 tones, those base tones, would work. Or any of the recipes that you can find are also okay. I've got my long neck. Love my long, long neck. If this were true, she would probably not live, but this is art. So I'm allowed to create these sort of long, exaggerated lines. I'm going to come across the front of the dress here. That right there?
Yeah.
Just painting her in. Easy peasy, pudding and pie. Yes, I said it. That happened. Make my little shoulder disappear right here. Coming up the back. I love doing this type of painting. I can't tell you how much.
I like watching you paint these kind of paintings.
Just fun for me. I love that you guys put up with them so much.
Well, everybody here is enjoying them too. We've got way over 300 people here hanging out doing this on a Thursday afternoon. So
Thursday.
I think that people are enjoying
You're amazing. Thank you.
Fashion girls.
Thank you. Good, because there'll be more.
More fashion girls coming.
Oh, yeah. I'm actually going to do some really cool stuff coming up over the holiday because I feel like I'm going to put a little more interesting diversity into my collection.
This is something you just sort of, it just sort of came out of your painting. This is just, I know that, you've always done these kinds of figures, but it's really, this has been really interesting to watch this, mature with you and come along.
Yeah, it has been kind of crazy. All right. Here at her head,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do an interesting thing. I'm going to grab just a smidge of my black and kind of work it into my dark skin tone or into your base, just whatever. You just want a shadow here. And I'm going to come underneath the chin very carefully. And then up the face. Just a little bit. And then a little teeny tiny bit down the neck. You can add a little shadow coming out, but not much. And you may need to go back with paint. I need my glasses. You may need to go back with paint and trim up your edge, and that is okay. Yeah, I'm trimming that up. And she needed a second coat on her face anyways.
So Nino said, John, can you ask the hue?
The hues are the colors of the paint. So this would be like a flesh tone. The colors I used are cad red medium, yellow ochre, and white. And then to get this color right here, I added a little more burnt umber. And for this over here, there was just a little more yellow ochre. I haven't even put any of the blue into gray.
Ah.
Okay, so just make sure your coverage is good. That would be one of the things I would say for this, is just make sure you've got good coverage so that you're happy. And you've got a minute. And then I'm not going to do the ear or the hand until I have my little brush because I think I need my glasses and my little brush.
Ah, gotcha.
All right, just making sure I've got nice coverage on her arm. And then when John grabs me my glasses, I'll show you how to do her hand and her little ears. And then we'll go into her hair and then we're done. She's just that kind of relaxing painting. You started her with the sponge, you should be like, man, like art got easy. Wait, let's show you.
Doo-doo-doo.
So excited to show you. Been working. John will tell you, I've been doing paintings.
Mhm.
So many paintings, testing an idea.
Yes.
So many.
Well, it's pretty good. You know, this has been, we've been cruising right along on this one.
Oh yeah, these are just wonderful little jaunts into our art day.
Art jaunts.
Art jaunts. So I'm gonna come and get a little of my skin tone, and I'm gonna load it onto my brush. Now on these, I pull it in, but I also like to load a lot to the tip, where I have a lot more control over the result. And I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna put an imaginary line across her face, about the halfway point. And at that point, I'm going to start an ear and bring it down just a little bit. And I'm going to come the other side. And I definitely want to line those up. And I'm going to tuck just a smidge of an ear over on this side. You can see the smidge of an ear? Make sure I trim my line here so that it's very delicate. Because she's delicate. Just put a little of this paint up here. Because it's on my brush and I'm going to offload it.
Right.
All right, so I've got some ears in. Happy with that. I'm going to put in her hand. Let's get a hand going. Hands are so fun to do. You guys said no, they're not. So I'm going to come down. I'm going to get her arm. Obviously, I don't bend the bone.
That would be ouchy.
And another bit of advice is it's easier to thicken an arm than thin it.
Yes.
So, do it too thin because then you don't have as much to paint out. And this section of arm and this section of arm should be reasonably close together in length.
And
So from the joint, like from right here behind the joint to the shoulder, and from the joint to the wrist, about the same length. Now, here's how I do hands. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make what I call my paddle. I'm going to take a little line out and then another little line out, and I'm going to come across and fill that in. Again, easier to make your hands bigger than smaller. And I want to get the delicate bits in first, and then I can always strengthen anything that I need to. So her first little group of fingers are actually kind of clumped together. And so I'm going to take the palm and curve it out a little bit where the fingers start. And I'm going to take one little line that I bend. So you go bend, bend. And then I'm going to fill those in. Sorry for the crack in my voice. So I'm going to fill those in. And that is this collection of fingers. And you can see by making that one longer line and sort of tapering it, it implies that there's a bunch of fingers together. Like you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this is challenging, but that's why I like to show how to do it. Use the traceable if it gets to be too much. Okay, I'm going to smooth this out.
Catherine's worried, she's worried she can't do hands. So hopefully after this, she'll be able to.
You know what? Sometime I will say will suddenly make it click, or someone will say, and then all of a sudden you'll be like, I can totally do hands. So now I've made sure that my knuckles are kind of at the same length. And how I do this finger is I come out about the length of where these fingers bend. And then I'm going to make a smaller little fingertip. Right? And I'm not even having a thumb or anything here. If you get a finger just a hair too thick on this dress, the nice thing is you can always come back with a touch of your red and trim it back.
Oh, yeah.
So it's easy to fix anything that you're not happy with if you're not happy with that hand result. I just dropped my rag. I'm going to go. Get it. Okay. So we're good. We're good. As soon as you're ready. Hi, guys. I'm going to sip my coffee. Love my glasses. As soon as you're ready, I'm going to show you how to put in the lips. And then we're going to put in the hair, and then we're done.
Okay, well, let me wait for them to say that they're ready.
Hmm?
I don't think anyone's ready. They've not said they're ready yet.
Oh, okay.
So I think we're going to have to wait for everyone.
I love that you guys are painting along live. I know it's been really crazy.
No, it really is.
There's a lot of you that went for the abstract with me live. Like a lot of them live.
We've got almost 350 people here. It's like 348, 351, 357. So it's just jumping all over the place. We've got basically 350 people here hanging out. They totally love it. They're all totally ready to paint it. Julie says this is really neat, and she's thought this whole painting process and layout was really good.
Oh,
so,
thank you. Sometimes it's nice on these ones that are not so like layer complicated, layer intensive.
Mm-hmm.
To maybe drill down into some of those processes or thought ideas that you guys can be like, what can I use here to implement into my own studio experience?
Now we have lots of readies ready.
Okay.
So
all
they think they can do it now.
All right. So
All right.
lips. Let's get our glasses on so we can see.
Let's see.
I'm going to taking my number 2. This is my ArtSherpa number 2. But what you're looking for is a small detail brush that works with your paint well. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've got my glasses so I can see. Now, I might chalk this in because I can erase it so you understand why I'm putting the lips where I am. So in a face, right, the face has a center line here, both hemispheres. Halfway point is our eye line. Then between the eye line and the chin, right, is the nose. And then between the nose and the chin is the mouth. So knowing that, I can easily always put my lips in.
I see.
And to do that, I'm going to just make a little teeny, tiny, curved stroke. That's it. That's all. I'm going to dip in water because fluidity on this. And honestly, if I wasn't teaching a class, I'd probably have this exact same color in a fluid paint. And I would pull some out to make it easier for me.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'm going to come here and I'm going to do an opposite and slightly smaller little curve shape. And sometimes I have to tap in to even get my mark. See?
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to do. Not another thing on that because then that would be too much. I'm going to get back into my, just real quick, my shadow skin color. And the reason being is like now with my glasses, I'm like, oh, that shadow's not in a place I love. So I'm going to come right here. And just move my shadow over a little bit, and then I'll trim it with my hair when I put my hair in. All right. So I've got that. Now I'm happy with it.
Yes.
So the hair. You guys all like... I'll let you guys lay that in. I hope the face placement explained why the lips are where they are. Because that's just very helpful sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Why are those lips there?
Why are those lips there? They're floating out there.
Because if you put them in the forehead, it's a whole nother painting.
That's not fashion illustration. That's abstract realism.
Kind of super is. All right, I'm going to take my number 4. You could use a round or bright. You could continue just using this and your detail brush. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You're not limited by your tools. You just have to be comfortable with what you're using.
Yes.
So I've put some water in my brush and I'm pulling the black out. So I'm doing 2 things. I'm loading my brush, which I very much like to do. And I'm thinning my paint so it's easier to work with.
Now, a lot of times in fashion illustration, they don't put faces on their people.
Right. Sometimes they do not.
So you just like to imply some face there.
I just got really elegant about it and just implied the face.
Yeah. So this is
coming here very delicately, trimming this space. And pull up to where my hairline ends up here. You can keep asking questions.
No. So yeah, you're not necessarily attaching to a strict school of
Fashion illustration, no.
or just art here. It's not like you're not doing this isn't you're not trying to do realism, or you're not trying to do
No.
impressionism. You're not trying to do any of the isms, so to
No.
speak.
No isms.
No isms.
No, the isms probably are informing everything I do all the time, because, it's tough to be the first person that invents a new style of painting, but then all of us that come along after get to take advantage of those thoughts and ideas and incorporate them almost innocuously into our own work.
Mm-hmm.
Pleasure.
But
So I'm just tapering this line. Can you see this line tapering?
yeah.
Now this next bit to me is important. It's my favorite bit. So I'm going to thin my paint a lot. You can see me take a bit of water. I literally just dip the tip of the brush in, take that small amount of water and swirl it around. I'm going to offload by pressing out my brush. You can even wipe if you need to with a towel. And I'm going to come load just the tip of my brush with this paint. If you need to switch to your detail brush, do it. I'm going to come out here and make this thin tendril of hair. That blows behind her. I know that was a lot of prep for one little line, but
but it's an important line.
it's an important line, and it takes that much prep. I'm going to come right here. Right up to her. I'm in these a lot of these lists that will say the 85 easiest acrylic paintings for you to do, and they'll just grab random artist artwork, and I end up in them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny how I will look at this list and think, well, only 3 of these paintings were easy. Some of them look easy, they're deceptively simple looking, but they were not.
Yeah, and you're just using a brush that makes it easy for you to get in there, huh?
Yeah, use any brush that lets you have control over the space you're in, and you may still have to come back and tip your ear, which it looks like I'll have to. Thus, why it's nice to have a nice amount of your skin tone mixed up when you start.
Right.
So while that's doing that, I'm going to grab my small brush, holding this one here, because I'm not fully done with it. Yes, I two-hand some of my stuff sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to load up with my skin tone, lighten it up a bit, so it's like where it was before. I'm going to come here and just add smoothness to the ear. See? Just making sure it's okay. It's
Yeah.
a weird deal, but these lines on her will all matter. She should be sleek. Now I'm going to get into my blue, and I'm loading up with my blue. And I'm going to do an interesting thing. I'm going to come around the outside of her hair, just to the outside. And then I'm going to come right at this part, very carefully pulling down, letting the brush just drive the edge of my paint. And a little blue into my black, mostly blue, or it won't do the next part. Here we go, having fun. Oh yes, here we go. Pulling this out along the hair. About that part where it tapers, right? I'm just trying to make a nice smooth flow here. It tapers beautifully. That's all. That's all I'm asking for. And just, one of the things I want you to observe is that I have to go back and adjust. I'm not one stroke in and done. I have to think about, what I've got going on here. Now, I'm going to tap off my brush a little bit. And I'm going to go get into my white. And you're going to see it immediately goes blue. Right? Back into this mix. And then I'm going to come to the outside of her hair. Right? Hopefully this is still even wet is ideal. And just make a couple little blue highlight strokes. And at this part of the hair, I'm going to come here. And as smoothly as I can, pull my brush softly through my paint. See how the bristles are just kissing it? Softly through my paint. I'll rinse out because I'm going to need to reload. The back of her hair is just, it's blue, but it's a slightly darker color. It's got the blue and the black and just a smidge of white in it, but see how that is? And then we're going to come behind here. Coming up.
No.
And over.
If you had made a mistake and smudged in that background.
Smudged which background?
You know, the background that we painted in with that sponge technique.
Uh-huh.
How would you go back and repair that?
Oh, well, we talked about that at the beginning where you let it dry and then you...
Oh, okay, yeah. You just let it dry a little bit, then just try to redo it over the top of it?
Here, I'll show you in a second.
Hey, we're just asking here. And so some of the folks
I'm going
were
to show because that means somebody smudged their background is having a panic attack. So I'm just painting this in. So you can see how this dark value right here and the blue highlight creates this sort of space. And that these smooth lines, the way that they blend together, make a great deal of prettiness.
Yeah.
Now, if you have clean water and your painting is dry, and I'll just show you where the painting is dry, and then I'm going to demo what we're talking about corrections. See, I can just take any brush wherever she's dry.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't use oil pastels. That does not work well for this. In fact, don't use oil pastels on your acrylic paintings unless you're a very experienced artist and have some sort of plan I'm not aware of.
Or you understand the fundamentals of oils and acrylics mixing and totally are on top of that as an artist in your art practice.
Then I mean, like, you got a plan and
play away.
So see, everywhere that she's dry, I can clean her up without difficulty.
Oh, yeah.
Now I'm going to sign her, and then I'm going to just demo for you guys a sponge fix.
Oh, neat.
Okay. I'm going to rinse out. Sometimes it's hard to get all the paint out of these little brushes.
You got to take them over to the sink and use your little brush cleaner.
They require a lot of love to get put back. I'm going to thin out my paint. You can see me bringing some water and swirling it around in my acrylic to thin it. Then I think I'll come here and sign over here in such a way that it's not disruptive to the overall painting. All right, so I've got her in, and let me just show you. Here she is. You guys can see her all done. All done, all done, all done. It's all it takes to paint her. She's super fun. Let me show you. Oh, did you get full screen of her?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So here's a background.
Oh, perfect.
And so say you have an area you're not liking. So say you don't like that right area there. You would get out your sponge and wring it out. I'm going to do this over the canvas. So you can see why I don't generally do this. I do this before I get everything into my art studio because it's a little bit messy. So see how much I'm wringing it out? So that's how much it's wrung out. But it's damp and it's ready. And I need to put some more background on. So I'm going to grab some white and that. Everything's dry. So all I've got to do, and I'm going to do this horizontally because I have an easier time stroking level horizontally. I'm going to come over the top very softly and just pull.
So it's real easy to do that in layers.
Yeah, as long as it's dry, I could layer a blue rain on top of this right now. I'm going to just demo that, right? So say I wanted a blue rain.
Oh, yeah, you just add some of that in there.
Look at that gorgeousness. Look at that gorgeousness. Sorry, now I'm enjoying the gorgeousness. I like this double background.
You did great.
Some more white. Changes the aspect of this piece. All right, just white. And see, my pressure is super soft. I'm just as lightly, I'm like, it's on the canvas, but for this one, for going over it, I'm not pressing in. If I press in hard, then I get this, a blended.
Right.
Which is also nice. But if you go like this, what do you get?
Green.
Nothing. So don't do that. Be like, no, I'm so gentle. Just get some of my color. Right over the top, look.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that just fixes it.
Yeah.
Just,
And it's streaky again and rainy again. Doesn't require...
No, that's fantastic.
So there really isn't... That's why I like the sponge, is because you can just go back and back and back. And you can do this rough, and you can do this blended, and it makes it look like oils, and I think that is so awesome.
So for everybody who in chat who showed up late and just saw that and go, what? She did that with a sponge? Yep.
Yep.
Go watch the beginning of the video.
Because that's how I am, and hopefully you guys will have tons of these, and we will put them all over Instagram and Twitter and Pinterest and all the places that we share our art, and of course the Facebook group and the website.
Yes, they're very, very excited about this. This is a good painting. So thank you, Cinnamon. We've had this has been very nice. Everybody's really enjoyed this show.
Well, tomorrow's going to be quite a day for you landscape painters. I'm so excited to be sharing this with you. I cannot wait to see you tomorrow. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I'm going to see you at the easel really soon. Bye-bye.